So before advocating a penny-wise and pound-foolish approach to our property taxes, the county board needs to consider the potential economic impact of messing with Medicaid and the institutions it supports. Thank you. I'd like this to be in the record.
Good morning. Thank you. Patrick Brady, I'm from Parkwood. I'd like to speak in opposition to the idea that the county should fund either the Susquehanna Animal Shelter or create a position within the Sheriff's Department or any other department for an animal cruelty officer. I was on the board of the SPCA when it was the SSPCA. I did 2 terms as president. I have never bought a dog in my life. They come to me naturally. The idea of funding by any government agency for something of this nature, it seems just poor priorities, the only way I can put it. And that's one thing. The other thing is I have found over the years in involvement in other groups that if people come to believe that that organizations receiving government funding, they tend to be less generous. We are very fortunate in this community in that we have both philanthropists of substantial means and the general public who support in amazing fashion the SAS. I have a letter I wrote to Representative Ellis, and you all have a copy which details my objections. On the other side, an animal cruelty officer sounds like an excellent idea. Right now, you have, in my own estimation, 8 to 15 animal cruelty officers. They're the state police and the sheriff's deputies. They go to a scene, they see something, and they react at the moment. Calling the SAS, getting people out to take care of the animals, whether they're there to see something or to arrest someone and the animals seem to be in jeopardy or in need of a home. And these guys are good. We had a case a while back where our total commitment was $68,000 we spent taking care of dogs. We went to court to recover that money and were successful, in large part because of the testimony of several state troopers and the actions of our own DA, Mr. Mule. So I don't see the need for this, and I would very much fear that if you had an officer dedicated to this, the sergeants, the bureaucracy would say to a trooper or to a deputy, pass it off, give it to the animal cruelty officer. It's such as human nature. Again, I've got a letter there. I would ask you to read it and consider it, but I would come out in opposition to either of those ideas. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.
Leslie Burley at Middlefield. I want to circle back again to this idea of a resolution in support of the Faso-Collins amendment. I was at John Faso's town hall on Thursday, and even he says the HCA is done, not happening. And by extension, that amendment is not happening. That amendment was ill-advised to begin with, but if this board were serious about wanting to reduce the Medicaid burden in counties, you would be looking at single-payer health care in New York State, which is just one vote away from passing. So it doesn't feel genuine to me that this is actually to do the business of the county. The second thing I want to say on that, and I missed the end of that meeting, but I did read that one of the representatives said he didn't understand why the resolution was pulled because of 20 people at the back of the room. These are your constituents. These are voters, and these are taxpayers. If you think that you shouldn't have to change something because of what the voters, the constituents, and the taxpayers have to say, it's time to step down.
Oh, okay.
Hello everybody, my name is Maria Igello. Well, we do have quite a crowd here today. I'm afraid I'm going to go way off the beaten path and become a little bit self-centered. I'm here, once again, to talk about an ethics board. Mr. Bliss, Mr. Bliss, thank you for having the guts and the courage to stand up, to start the process of an ethics committee. Now, I know there are other gentlemen here and ladies that would follow in suit. It just takes one to start, doesn't it? Just one. Have the guts to impanel this board and have a review of the ethics in this county. I am putting it in the record that I want my issue at 104 Filburn Road, Richfield Springs, New York, the sale and transfer of that property to another employee while I was still waiting to go to court. That's one issue. The second issue, of course, is I don't understand all the things with the animals and everything, but it wouldn't hurt to throw a couple dollars. We are generous in this community. We are. But several years ago, there was a resolution that the legislators did give the animal shelter $5,000 a year. So in all our generosity, times are hard for all of us. We have relatives and other people that are in horrible danger right now. Hurricane Harvey, now Hurricane Irma. So we would like to in prayer, keep them safe, Lord. That we in this county, who are right now blessed with just a little bit of rain, may be able to have resources sent to them. And also for our animals, our horses, our cows. We don't know what's going to happen. We're a farming community. We flood with a little bit of rain anyway. So have compassion. Have that ethics board, Mr. Bliss. You started. I'll be there. I'll be the first one. And as always, God bless you in your endeavors. Keep us in mind. All of us. All of us. Whatever our issues are, remember, you're the ones we come to. You are the legislative board. You make the laws. Whatever you say is legal is. God bless. Have a great day. And be safe in this weather. Thank you. I go back up.
Yes, my name is Edward Doyhead. I live in the hamlet of Waltham in the town of New Lisbon. Good morning, everybody. I always notice things when I travel around a little bit. I had an opportunity a couple of weeks back to go down to Kentucky, visit my cousin and her husband. They're just outside of Louisville. Beautiful house there. She's an interior designer. So needless to say, 4-bedroom house, huge house, 3 garages. It's about a 250 to 300 foot concrete driveway leading up to the house, circular in front, and then going down to the garages and everything there. Heated in the ground pool, the whole 9 yards, gazebo out there, everything. 6 3/4 acres, I believe they told me. So now, what do you think something like that would appraise for or whatever? We got talking about taxes the one evening. That leads me into the rest of this. Got talking about taxes. They're both, she keeps up with the business a bit, through the continuing college credits. But got talking about it. They were complaining about their taxes because he's retired. They're both in their mid-70s. And turned out the taxes combined, school, property, the city of Goshen and everything there where they're located, was a little north of 4,000, I believe 42 something or whatever. And I says, what's wrong with this picture? I'm thinking. When I told them what my taxes were, I have 108 acres, mostly woods and everything. I have the house, it's worth, property and everything, probably not even a quarter, possibly, maybe give it its leeway, a third of the value of their place. And when I told them I'm north of 8,000, they couldn't believe it. They were totally shocked. What's wrong with the picture altogether? That's why I would say one thing we ought to be doing is all the counties get together, support Faso and Collins in their endeavor, because guess what? Let the governor put the taxes where they should be throughout the state on everybody. He wants to be the big guy. He wants to have his aspirations. He keeps saying that he's going to go for governor in 2018. Yes, he's going to do that. Let him write something down in writing, have a lawyer draw it up, that he'll see his governorship through completely. He has aspirations for president. He could give a hoot less about governor, plain and simple. You know, got to wake up to these facts and, you know, come to the reality. Why are people losing their houses here so much? Both with the, you know, through the tax sales, through foreclosures and everything. It's taxes. There's no getting away from it. Look at, everybody's afraid to make that first move. What happened in California years ago with Proposition 13? The governor and everybody else, there's not going to be any services, everything's going to be bankrupt, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. How are they doing today? You know, that's an example of where things go. The words I'd like to leave you with that I came up with, you know, just my common sense. Make a decision, be it right or wrong, but be decisive. Life's road is painted with flat squirrels that couldn't make a decision. Think about it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak?
Jello resides with me. Here's Bob Force's shirt. Bob Force, don't forget this guy. I think this county's going to remember him in court. He wants a day in court. He wants a fair day in court. He didn't have that. Unfortunately, and I'm glad Mrs. Kakoma isn't here, but it's a huge conflict of interest to have her in front of Judge Burns making decisions and having Judge Burns make decisions based upon her as the countering attorney. Judge Burns owes his job to Judge Michael Kakoma. So, I mean, it's quite evident that nobody's going to get a fair shake here. Now, there's a board member no longer here that was opposed to her appointment, and that was Betty Ann Schwerd. And I think your chairperson, you know that she was opposed, but she probably went along to go along. Each one of you board members have a responsibility to your conscience and to our God that we would do the right things. And ethics is huge. Now, Maria's home was taken. It was sold to another employee who, this is her 4th rental house that she has. That's a business. Mrs. McGovern, your husband is involved in a business. You made full disclosure, rightfully so, that this could possibly be a conflict. But because you did that, it's the right thing to do, and I'll tell you, we're very thankful we have somebody that's still wrenching on our beat-up equipment here. Talking about beat-up, this whole county has got real problems. I mean, everything seems to be falling apart. I had no idea that the highway department garage is condemned. All the trucks are sitting outside. Those trucks are aged. They need a lot of work. Those guys can't possibly keep up with what's coming on. I mean, I was stranded out on the road myself recently. Thankfully, we got some cell service and was rescued. But, I mean, it's not the way to be doing this county. So, Len Carson, I recently met your neighbor at the REA. I was amazed, and I'm kind of just jump around. This is more Ed's thing. How little REA service we have in New York State, and that we're blessed in that we have water power, so we have somewhat affordable electricity here. When you look at the entire United States, it's amazing how much of it is served by REA. Now, at a recent meeting, those people in the REA, they don't get in on the, the awards, the gift prizes and stuff. So why are we doing this with our county employees? I didn't see any of you employees at the auction. I bought a tiny piece this year. I would have liked to have seen you there. And it used to be, you used to approve the properties, so that if there was some kind of a conflict of me buying that, then it could be pulled out. But now it just seems that we jump over everything, and it seems to be like a national problem in this too. Everybody just does what they want, get away with it, tailgate your neighbor, speed everywhere, and then cry when it happens. Well, this country right now is coming down to its knees. I'm not sure why this is happening other than just the way it is. But when this next storm wallops us, we're going to all be looking at whatever happened here. Please return Maria Agello's home and land. It's the one right thing you can do during your time here. Everything that we've seen to have done doesn't seem to be working too well. combining with Onondaga. The IDA, Otsego now has become Otsego then. So where are we going with this? Please do the right thing. Bob Forrest, don't forget him. In the year that this went on, you had to go back and correct your mistakes. And you know what it was, it's public. But you sold land in Delaware County. You had Kevin Hoey, you gave him his property back. You had Chuck Barringer, you took away property he bought and gave it to somebody that owned it 10 years before. So there were a lot of mistakes that year. And Bob Forrest's place and Maria's was a mistake too. And for you to just one day flip it like that was amazing. I bought this piece of property. I had the new tax bill in my hand before I even had the title to the property. So, I mean, you're not wasting any time in this. I thank you for your time today. Be well.
I just wanted to rebut something that Ed said last month. And Ed, I know it was an offhanded comment when you were talking about something you were passionate about, but you said that you had to read in the Daily Star that money was going from the state to Hollywood. And that's not the way the tax credits work for the film business. And I just wanted to explain it a little bit. Something you'll hear me say a lot is that we are literally the only part of the state not taking advantage of the film business in New York State right now. Not taking advantage of the tax credit. We have no film office. We have very little infrastructure. And it could all be built here pretty easily, I think. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a lawyer. If I was advising somebody on doing a film in upstate New York, I would say talk to your film accountant, talk to your film lawyer. But a couple of things about the tax credit. One, the state is putting money into upstate films. And as I said, just about every other part of the state now has a film office, now is having 5, 6, 10 films a year filmed in their area. I believe in 2016 we had 1 day of filming in this area. It was in Oneonta for a commercial. A friend of mine's daughter was in it. They called the Albany Film Office to set it up because we have no film office in this region. So the people from Albany got a paycheck or a credit or however it works with the film office to come in here and set it up. Now the way that people do tax credits these days in the film business, you basically don't make a film without getting a tax credit. I was living in LA at the time when they had what was called Film Flight, and basically places like Vancouver or Atlanta, Georgia, or New Orleans, Louisiana, were offering tax credits, and they drew people's film in. Now, when you say that the money goes to Hollywood, Ed, really it doesn't, because people use these tax credits ahead of time as part of their financing plan. So the money goes back to a bank, essentially, or the money goes back to the investor who put the money in the first place. They do it in a very smart way. So the state is setting it up, and New York is very smart about how they do it, so that they're really paying part of what a producer pays to film here in upstate. So, there's a lot of permutations to it. There's an infrastructure credit. So if the Hall of Fame built a film studio here, the state might pick up part of that as well, for instance. Or if we built a film studio here, the state might pick up part of the infrastructure here. But I just don't want you guys to close your minds to it. We need a film office, and we need some infrastructure here. Ulster County, I read, in the first part of 2017, had 5 films filmed there with a $5 million local spend. So again, that's not for the actors, that's not for the director, that's how much they paid to rent houses, to hire carpenters, to hire electricians, to hire the teenager as a PA. And it's something that everybody else is taking advantage of except for Central New York. I don't know who does it, whether it's a county thing, a Cooperstown thing. We've got to get a film office set up here so that they don't go someplace like Albany or Syracuse to film. We have a lot of resources. As Kathy says, we have a lot of undeveloped highway. If you put a film office, say it was the Cooperstown Film Office, you might not find the space in Cooperstown. So where does it go? It goes to Middlefield or Mount Vision or Hartwick or Lawrence, someplace close by, someplace that might need other development such as cell phone service or internet service, which certainly if you had a film studio here, I think they'd want to make sure that got set up. So again, I could talk about this all day. I won't. I'll let you guys get to your business. But please keep an open mind, and Ed, don't take it personally. I just wanted you guys to know that that could be money that the state pays to our region rather than all the money that we send to the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Hello, everyone. I'm Nicole Dillingham from Springfield Center. I just want to respond briefly to the comments from the gentleman from Hartwick about the Susquehanna Animal Shelter. Just to clarify, I appreciate that he has served as a volunteer there and maybe even served as president, although I don't recall exactly when that was. Times have changed since then, and he is right that our community is generous. but the animal shelter is losing $90,000 a year due to flooding, additional staff due to extraordinary numbers of animals being brought in, the fact that it is the only licensed animal shelter in the entire county, and this county needs to recognize that this shelter is providing government services. If someone is arrested with animals in the home, they are brought by the sheriffs to this shelter. If someone is accused of animal abuse, those animals, while those charges are pending, are initially brought to the animal shelter. And we provide a very important service to your constituents, to the people who sometimes can't afford to care for their animal, people who are sick and can't care for an animal, people who pass away, people who have to move. They bring their animals to the shelter. We take them. We have a surrender fee, but often the surrender fee isn't even paid and we will still take the animal. So we are $90,000 per year right now, operating out of endowment funds, which will last 10 to 12 years. Our community is generous, but we can't, through just donations, support the operation of this very important facility for the entire county. So I know that we have asked before, but I know you're in your budget process. Please include a generous grant to the animal shelter this year in this year's budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay. Motion to approve the minutes of August 2nd. Second by
Second.
Ed. All in favor?
Aye.
Presentation of petitions, communications, and notices.
I have the monthly report of ATI program services rendered by cafeterias for the month of July.
Two special presentations today. The first presentation on paid legislation. Come on up, Jeff. Is anybody else with you, Jeff?
No, where would you like me to stand?
Come up to the front.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to do this. Just to give you some quick background about myself. I'm Joe Del Sintico. I'm an advisor for the Energy Improvement Corporation. My background primarily has been about 20 years in the private sector and 20 years in the government sector. I was a town councilman in Bedford, New York, a supervisor in Bedford, New York. Then I was COO of Empire State Development for 5 years and CFO of the New York Power Authority for 6 years. So I left right at the end of the pastor administration in New York State instead of the retirement house. I'm going to just go to the next slide. I'm going to talk about the Energy Improvement Corporation and the programs that we provide. We are a local development corporation. We were created basically with funding by the U.S. DOE and by NYSERDA, and we received some additional funding from the Green Bank as well. And the subject I'm going to focus on today is our finance product, PACE Financing, which I'll get into in detail. Next slide.
Point of order, is it possible to stand away from the screen so we can see the type? Like,
Yeah, can I stand further back here?
Yeah.
Okay. Stand in front of the podium. So the issue we're talking about today is the ability to finance energy efficiency and renewable energy projects. And as you can see from this slide, this data was presented by NYSERDA that talks about how much money is wasted in New York State by not taking advantage of opportunities to make our buildings more efficient and to utilize renewable energy. And the reason why this is not happening is what we're talking about today in the program we're offering to make that issue go away. So next slide. Look, communities need low-cost financing to make projects like this available. And the programs that have been available primarily through the commercial marketplace have not been attractive from a cost standpoint, from a cost of term standpoint, and they haven't allowed for the opportunity to be able to upgrade buildings throughout New York State. Next slide. So we created PACE. Now PACE stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy, and its origin goes back to the second Bush administration. The program was initiated at the federal level, and then the New York State legislature passed a resolution to provide for a mechanism that allows for the private sector to work with the public sector to provide a mechanism to allow for energy efficiency and renewable energy financing to take place throughout the entire state of New York. PACE it is a nationwide program. Most of the states have adopted PACE. From a success standpoint, California has been far and away the largest in the country. They've done, I think, over $100 million in financings. And oddly enough, a state as small as Connecticut has actually been a very successful state, and they actually have done well over $40 or $50 million in PACE financing. So New York State is starting to get this program rolling, but we've been sort of impressed with how much Connecticut has accomplished as such a small state. Next slide. The program that we're talking about, again, deals with financing primarily commercial properties, and I'll talk a little bit about how we do that. But we also work with the communities that become members of the Energy Improvement Corporation to advance the program, make the information available to the community so that the constituents within the community know that this program is available. Next slide. I'm going to try to go through these as quickly as possible, but some I'll dwell on a little bit more. What we want to focus on, in addition to the environmental benefit, is the economic development benefit. What happens is when we make these buildings more efficient, we also make them more attractive. So what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to go into a community and upgrade the buildings to the point where they're more efficient, they're more competitive, and then they're more attractive in the marketplace. So there is savings that's generated by the introduction of this financing by reducing the cost of energy that the building is consuming, and that's freeing up money that allows that money to go back into the community. And the next slide, we talk not only about economic development, but we talk about job creation. When we finance projects like this, traditionally what will happen is there will be direct employees that are involved actually in the work of backing the capital investment for energy efficiency or renewable energy. But those jobs create support jobs, the indirect jobs. So there's a very significant economic development factor here that works within the community. And more importantly, and I'll talk about it a little bit more, but as we go in and create these programs with the community, we also educate the contractors within the community as well as the property owners within the community to make them aware of the fact that this program is available. So it's not only creating jobs, but it's creating jobs, most importantly, within the communities that are adopting this program. What makes PACE very unique as it relates to commercial financing, I'll spend some time on this slide, is number one, and this is really important, we can finance 100% of the capital investment. So many times, especially in the commercial marketplace, they're reluctant to utilize their own capital. They're not in a position to utilize their own capital. What PACE offers is the ability to provide 100% of all the financing necessary to do either an energy efficiency or renewable energy project. And we allow for very low interest rates to be able to do this financing. We provide for terms that go out as long as 20 years. Now, obviously, we would never finance a project beyond its useful life. But the reason why the long-term financing is so important is because what we found in this industry is many times when someone looks at upgrading a building, they overlook a lot of the subtle aspects of the improvements that can provide for energy efficiency savings. We call those deep upgrades, but many times they take a little bit longer for the payback. So now with financing at 100% and with terms as long as 20 years, we're able to go in and find every little opportunity for savings in that building to reduce the energy cost that that building is consuming. And this generates positive cash flow for the property owner. Another aspect of PACE that we think is very important is what we've learned in this industry is a lot of times a property owner does not want to undertake a financing because they don't know how long they're going to own that building. And they don't want to be in a situation where a loan gets accelerated at the time in which they need to sell it, and it might reduce the attractiveness of the building. Because this benefit is going to the building and therefore staying with the owner of the building, the financing remains in place. So the property owner doesn't have to worry about the anxiety of, well, if I take on financing and then I sell the building, I have to pay off the loan. They don't do that. The term of the financing stays from the original term because it's benefiting that owner or the new owner of the building. I talked a little bit about the job creation goals and sustainability, but I also want to talk about just the improving the building stock within the community, because again, I want to reinforce that point because I think it's very important. Next slide. We have a very robust way in which we evaluate the efficiency of the project and the applicability of the financing. Number one, obviously the program has to pay for itself. So what I mean by that is that the cost of financing has to be less than the savings. So there has to be positive cash flow as a result of doing the financing. In the past, we were capped at 10% of the appraised, not the assessed, but the appraised value of the building. We just went through a change in legislation. Fortunately, it was passed unanimously by the Senate, and there were 2 negative votes in the Assembly, and the governor is about to sign the bill now, which allows for the financing to go up from 10% to 35%. And it's very important in upstate New York, where when this program was created in southeastern New York, we were looking at property values that were very high. In upstate New York, because the property values weren't that high, the 10% became an impediment. So we had to go back to the legislature and get them to make that change. So that they did pass that change, and we're just waiting for it to be signed. The governor's supposed to sign it by September 13th. We also will not finance a heavily leveraged property. So for example, if a property right now has a mortgage or a debt ratio of greater than 80%, we won't finance it. And the combination of the existing financing and the PACE financing cannot exceed 90% of the appraised value of the property. We will not finance any property that has been through bankruptcy in the last 7 years. We will not finance any property that has not been current on their property taxes in the last 3 years. And what is very important here is we won't finance anything unless the bank that is holding a security interest in the property approves the financing. We just don't want to get anybody in trouble with the bank that's been supporting their financing for a period of years. Next slide. There is no public money used to finance these projects, and I think it is extremely important. All of the financing that is done by the Energy Improvement Corporation is done by the issuance of bonds, which we issue, and the bonds are purchased by Bank of America or KeyBank. Bank of America has been by far the largest partner. They've committed $75 million to the purchase of the bonds. They're very interested in the financing. They've been very supportive of the financing. And just to sort of take you through the process, it's relatively simple. But what would happen is if a property owner decided they want to go forward, we would finance the project. We bundle these packages into a bond. The bank would then buy those bonds. The municipality then that becomes a member would collect the repayment of the bonds through a line on a property tax bill. They would reimburse that money to the trustee that's entrusted in controlling all of the funds, and then they would pay the purchaser of the bonds back, which for the most part would be the Bank of America. Next slide. We talked about eligibility. One of the programs that we talked about here is the financing. The financing is limited to commercial property. So by commercial, I mean very easily, it could be commercially owned, it could be a not-for-profit. It cannot be single-family residential. We're not in a position to be able to do that right now. So that's really the only segment in the marketplace that we can't serve. We can do residential, but it has to be of a multifamily nature. Basically, there's a lot of complications to this, which I don't want to bore everybody with, but it really has to do more with federal legislation and the problems associated with doing that. It's not that we don't want to do residential. When the legislation was passed, it was passed with the intent of doing residential, but again, there are problems right now in the residential marketplace, so we're excluding that segment at the moment. Next slide. I talk about eligibility of the improvements. The best way, I think, to describe the energy efficiency nature of the projects is if you can imagine anything that can be improved in that building that will reduce the existing building's energy cost, it's eligible. So it's a very broad category as it relates to energy efficiency. With renewables, it's pretty simple. I mean, that's like solar, that could be geothermal, it could be wind. We're doing more and more solar, and we're starting to see more and more solar applications as well. Next one. I want to take you through some examples of projects that we financed, because I think it's important to sort of help you understand. This was a not-for-profit in Rye, the city of Rye, New York, the Wainwright House, and it was very popular as a community center within the city. And the next slide, we talk a little bit about the structure. they were unable to secure the financing they needed to make this property more energy efficient. As you can see, the project cost was a little over $300,000. So they were just unable to get the financing from any commercial source. The representatives of the community house went to the city council, they explained the situation to them. The Rye City Council passed the legislation to allow this to happen, and now what they've been able to do is dramatically upgrade the efficiency of the building, and as you can see on the bottom line, they're also saving $4,000 a year. So they're actually spending $4,000 a year less than they were spending before because the energy efficiency has saved them that much more money. Next slide, we're talking about, this is an agricultural use. I like to talk about this because this was the first project we ever financed. It's in Orange County in Goshen, New York. It was actually sponsored when the governor introduced the REV program. And in the next slide, when we get into the economics, we can talk about this. But just to give you some background, I had the opportunity to speak with the county executive at a Chamber of Commerce breakfast, and the owners of the dairy were in the audience. And they had been looking for a way to finance solar for their farm for a while, and they had not been able to find the mechanism to do it. They heard my presentation. They went to David Church, who's the commissioner of planning for the county. He directed them to basically to us and to a solar installer, and they were able to do this project. And it's an amazingly efficient project because you can see how much money they've saved. And under the project, $15,000 a year is what they're saving by utilizing solar energy now to power the farm. So this was a large field that they put all of the solar panels in. It was a project that they did in conjunction with NYSERDA, but again, we funded it, and it's an important agricultural use. Next slide. The next slide, again, is talking about a housing project, and you can flip to the next slide if you don't mind. The reason why I'd like to point this out is because it talks about the dramatic savings that's available if you utilize this financing for energy improvement. Now, in this example, you see the option that they had of financing the project over 5 years or financing the project over 20 years. So at $500,000, which is the total cost of this project, by financing it for as short a period as 5 years, they were able to save over $16,000 a year. But yet the investment that they were making was such that if they wanted to go out as far as 20 years, they could, and they could have saved $56,000 a year by stretching that financing out for a longer period of time. So it goes to show how much money that could be saved by upgrading these buildings and making them more efficient. Next slide. This was an example. I'll go through this one quickly. This was a tile and marble company in Otsego, New York. In the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about the benefits as well. But this was a project that they undertook with just slightly $400,000. And again, if you look at the savings under the project section, $26,000 a year was their cost savings for undertaking the financing. Again, just to reinforce, that's the savings even though they're taking on that additional debt. Next slide. This was an interesting project because it was a church in Portland. It's Cortland, New York. Cortland, the town of Cortland, not the city of Portland. And this was something where the parishioners were really pushing the church to do something. The next slide talks a little bit about the economics. It wasn't a terribly large project, but again, for the church in this case is saving $3,500 a year. So again, they were able to utilize renewable energy to drive the efficiency of the church and also save money for their parishioners. Next slide. I'm going to again go to the next slide as well. This is an important project because for those of you who are familiar with solar financing, right now there are some very significant tax benefits that are provided to people that take on solar, but the benefits are primarily investment tax credits. Investment tax credits come from the federal government, but they only provide benefits to people who have tax liability. In this particular instance, this was a not-for-profit that wanted to do solar, but they couldn't take advantage of the investment tax credit because they had no taxable liability. So what we did is we created a three-party structure where we had the not-for-profit take energy from a solar installation that was put on the building. Then we had the Bank of America finance the cost of the project, but then we had a party in the middle that owned the solar, agreed to sell the solar energy to the not-for-profit, they were able to take advantage of the investment tax credit and share some of that savings with the not-for-profit. So this structure, this three-party structure, has made all the difference in the world in our ability to utilize PACE financing to be able to benefit not only for-profit, but not-for-profit entities as well. Next slide. This project, again, let's flip to the economics. This was a project that was a little under $500,000. This was a situation, this is an assisted living facility in Peekskill, New York. This was not necessarily a project where they saved a lot of money, but what they had was very old infrastructure, which was creating a lot of problems for the residents of the facility. And they were facing a financing of this almost $500,000. They really didn't have any sources for the funding available to them. PACE made all the difference in the world. So as you can see under the project savings, it was only $600 a year. But if PACE was not available, they would not have been able to undertake this project, which would have been a serious detriment to the residents of the assisted living facility. So, we can't always point to huge economic savings, but we can point to the ability to either save money or undertake a project that couldn't be done any other way. Next slide. So how do you enable PACE? I mean, basically what happens is a municipality, in this case it would be the county, municipality would have to pass a local law where they would adopt PACE through their legislation. They would sign a municipal agreement to become a member of the Energy Improvement Corporation, and then they would request that membership be approved by the Energy Improvement Corporation Board. When EIC was created, it was all primarily volunteers. Now the board is made up entirely of the members. So the board is either town supervisors, it's either mayors, or it's county executives. So the entire board now is made up of the municipal members. So we've shifted from the volunteer structure to the government structure. Next slide. We believe there is no cost to the municipality becoming a member. There are some steps, obviously, that the municipality has to take, and I'll go through that with you as well. But again, there's no variable cost or no additional cost required on the part of the municipality to become a member. Next slide. The duties of the municipality are, in my opinion, I think relatively simple. What we do is we as an entity tell you how much to put on the tax bill and how much money to collect every year. All of the financing is for a fixed term, for a fixed rate of interest, so there's no variation in the amount of money that's collected on a periodic basis, whether it be twice a year or once a year, so there's no surprises. We provide that report to the municipality at least 90 days before the tax bills go out. The municipality then collects that money, what looks like just like they do everything else on that tax bill, and then the role, if you will, is to carve out the portion that's dedicated to PACE, and the municipality then has to send a check to our trustee bank, which is that U.S. bank. And again, this is always probably the most difficult part of the presentation, but the municipality is obligated to make that payment to the Energy Improvement Corporation, just like they're obligated to make any payment to anybody that is levying money against that property. Now, I mentioned I was a town supervisor in Westchester County. Westchester County is the only county in New York where the towns and the cities make everybody whole. And the rest of the state, the county makes everybody whole. So I've been in your shoes, so I understand what it's like to be responsible for paying those charges, whether they're collected or not. But it is an obligation because we do have to treat the PACE line like any other line on a tax bill. Next slide. We don't want to create a loss, obviously, for the municipality, so we've created two funds in order to protect the municipality. Number one is what we call the permanent loss fund. Now, what that means, and I'll try to explain it as simply as possible, if a property owner undertakes a PACE financing and they don't pay, and the municipality then has to collect through some form of legal procedure, like an in rem procedure, against that property, and they are unable to collect the portion of the money that they've paid to cover the non-payment of the taxes, the municipal permanent loss fund would reimburse the municipality. So there would be no loss to the municipality by supporting the PACE financing. In addition, we've created another program called the Municipal Tax Delinquency Fund. Now, what this is this is a program that we've created with the New York Green Bank. It's backed by a $5 million line of credit. And to explain it in the simplest possible terms, what would happen is if the municipality wanted to participate, and nobody has, because there really isn't that much of a record here of late payments, but if the municipality wanted to, they would actually pay a fee to participate in this program. It would be like insurance, and they would be able to protect themselves. So if the property owner didn't pay, they would be able to draw money from that $5 million line of credit to cover their cash flow exposure. If, as expected, there are no losses, and they've basically paid for that benefit through the form of a premium, and they didn't collect any money or they didn't utilize the fund at all, the premium would be reimbursed. So it's sort of like buying insurance, paying a premium, and then not using the insurance and getting your money back. So there would really be no cost to the municipality other than a $50 fee, which is not refundable. But it would protect the municipality from any cash flow exposure. Next one. You can modify the program. There are municipalities that have become members that put caps on how much they would like to finance. They don't want to do any residential and don't want to do any residential in the future. So there are modifications that you could make. The way you would do that is you would request those modifications in a letter to the EIC board requesting membership, and the board would accept those modifications. Talking about one quick change here, Chautauqua County did pass a local law, so the EIC board will accept their membership at the September 20th meeting. And these are all the municipalities that we're in various levels of discussion with. And next slide. And again, this is just a map showing you what I've just gone through in the list. Next slide. And again, the next step. So if we wanted to move forward with this, again, the county would have to pass the local law. They would authorize the executive to sign the municipal agreement. They would send a letter requesting membership to the EIC board, and then we would work with the municipality to launch the program, and as I say, get the word out to all of the property owners and get all the contractors trained on how to do the work. And with that, again, I thank you, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I just wondered the parameters. You said that you could limit, say, the amount of borrowing. What kind of flexibility is there over that limitation? Can you go back and change that limitation year to year? I mean, if you set it at 100,000 and then 2 years down the road you want to raise it to 500,000, can you make that change?
Yeah, you can make that change whenever you like. The only municipality, well, I shouldn't say the only. Tompkins was the first to do it. They capped it at $5 million. The city of Ithaca then followed immediately thereafter and capped it at 5, and Broome County capped it at 5. They were the only municipalities that put a cap on it. Now, we actually had a $5 million project in Tompkins. If we did that, then I don't think they'd want to stop at one project, so they'd have to go back and amend it. But in the original letter, you could put whatever amount you want, and then if you wanted to increase the amount, you would just notify the board that you would authorize them to go a little higher. So you can do that whenever you'd like. Okay.
Is it one or the other with rebates with NYSERDA, or can you take advantage of both?
You can take advantage of both, but we can't finance a NYSERDA grant. So for example, if you have a $500,000 project, let's say, and they're eligible for a $100,000 grant from NYSERDA, we can finance $400,000. But we can finance the federal piece. So like that example I talked with, it was the investment tax credit. If they wanted to make the use of our financing today, even though they'd have to wait 3 years for the federal investment tax credit, they would be able to do that. But we can't finance the NYSERDA portion. You have a follow-up?
Yeah. I saw the interest rates were all variable. Is it a variable rate over the time period?
It's a variable rate now, like right now. I mean, bond rates right now, they dropped a lot yesterday, but it's based on bond rates, and then we set the rate, and then once we set the rate, it's fixed. So the financing is fixed for the term, but it'll vary based on when you initiate the financing. He's on a roll there.
Yeah, he is. Directly related to that, fine,
before it was good.
Otherwise, we'll get some other people and come back.
So, on the part that makes the counties whole, or whoever the tax gains is it whole on the equipment that's on, that the equipment is whole on all, let's say the loan was $300,000 and the property sold for $150,000, plus all the back taxes. That will make it whole on the equipment. So the next person that's involved, it's that piece of property.
It only makes it whole, again, the financing must stay with the property for the term.
Oh, that's my question.
Yeah, so it's only the shortfall for the period in which the property owner didn't pay and the point at which you
So
foreclosed on the
the
property.
burden goes forward.
Yeah, the burden goes forward with the new owner. You know, and that's come up. I mean, in public hearings, people have asked me that question, is that, doesn't that make it less attractive to the buyer that they're taking on a property with a debt? The answer to that is no. And the reason why the answer is no is, number one, the bank has already acknowledged the fact that even though they had a security interest in the property, that allowed them to take on a loan, because number one, it's made their collateral more valuable and it's reduced their cost. So obviously there's a benefit to the property having been improved and been more energy efficient. So we believe it actually makes the property more attractive and more marketable.
That was my line of questions, but I'm still not following you. So if the property goes into default, in this particular county, we give them 4 years, and it sells, going to Craig's example, 150,000, but 300,000 is still owed on this case finance. We, the county, are on the hook.
If you took over the property and didn't resell it?
We sold it for 100, I think if I followed your analogy right, we sold it for 150,000, but there's 300,000 still left on the loan.
The new owner.
But whoever buys the property has to take on the responsibility of paying the loan. So it's just like, you know, if you buy a piece of property and you know the property tax bill is X amount of dollars. Included in that property tax bill is the base charge. So you know going in that when you take over that property, you have that much responsibility for that many years remaining. The only time the municipality would have the obligation to pay it is if they didn't resell the property. So if you foreclosed and you held on to it, then you would have to make good on that payment, just like you'd have to make good to the school district or the town or the city, whoever it might be.
Where's the gap part come in, the insurance side?
A fee, $50 fee.
It covers the amount of money that you've laid out. So let's say, for example, the property owner they didn't pay $100,000 of the PACE bill, which is $500,000, and you had to pay that $100,000. Now, when you went to foreclose and you allocated the amount that you collected over how much is owed, and you had an 80% recovery, 20% of that $100,000 would be reimbursed by us. So you would not sustain a loss on the PACE charge bill. By the way, just to make it clear, there have been no defaults in PACE financing. When I was CFO of the Power Authority, we did over $100 million a year in energy efficiency, and a good portion of that financing went to companies that were getting economic development power from the Power Authority. We never had a loss. PACE has not had a loss nationally, and I think in non-residential. Residential, they've had some losses, but again, we're not doing residential at the moment. But I think the reason why is because the people who do these types of financing, they pay their bills. You know, I mean, they're responsible people. And again, you know, these are people that have not been bankruptcy, they've paid their taxes on time. And something important I wanted to say to you, and I don't want to hold you up too long, but what Tompkins did, I think, was very smart. And then Broome followed, and the city of Ithaca. What we're required to do is two things when a financing application comes in Tompkins, Broome, or Ithaca. And then we have to notify the municipality, and then they do two searches. One, they assess the environmental risk, because again, what they don't want to do is take title to a problem where there's an environmental issue. They don't want to take title to that property. So they may not want to foreclose on it if they can't sell it, and they don't want to be in the chain of a potentially responsible party. So they prohibit financing of environmentally risky projects. Also, we don't know the people in the community. So, you know, there's a lot of LLCs out there, and this person owns this property, and they have LLC 123 Main Street, and they're prompt in their payments, but they're not on XYZ LLC. So they can come back to us and say, we know this property owner They may be current here, but they're not current there, so we're asking you to not do the financing. So we give the municipality every possible protection we can to minimize or mitigate their risk.
So this isn't residential, this is just commercial?
Yeah, right now we cannot do, the only way, again, it can be residential if it's multifamily. Basically, it's residential if it's not a mortgage that could be guaranteed by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, because they're the problem.
Anybody else have a question? Thank you, Joe.
Okay, thanks very much.
Parker, yeah, presentation on the Otsego County Highway Asset Management Program.
Highway Asset Management Program. So I'm Jacqueline Porter, and this is Parker Fish. He's working on the video right now. So the last 3 months, we've been out driving all of the county roads and grading them based on a scale on the sheet that you guys have in front of you, the last sheet in the report. So we went out and we drove all of the 900 lane miles, and we graded each of the roads based on the categories on that sheet. Then we went into the software and we put all of the roads that we graded, and when we put them into the software, it would give us a score based on those sections, and then it would give us a repair type, and it also gave us some prices that were outdated, just to give us an idea of, I believe they're from 2008, on what repair costs at that time. The scale was 1 to 94, 94 being the best road and 1 being the worst. The idea of the program is to keep good roads good. So roads that score 70 or above are good roads, and we want to work on those annually and first to make sure that they're staying at a 70 or above range. So we've decided that annual assessments will have to be done on these roads. So we have a short video that we've prepared for you, so we're just going to play that right now.
Highway Asset Management Program, or HAM, is a Cornell University local road professionals members, along with the help of Otsego County Planner Eric Scribner, are spending the duration of the summer working on the Highway Asset Management Program. The Highway Asset Management Program, or HAM, is a Cornell University local road focused program used to grade and determine the overall quality of pavement. In the case of Otsego County, Jacqueline and Parker traveled the over 900 lane miles of county highways, grading each based on a predetermined survey sheet. The sheet includes categories such as rutting, potholes, edge cracking, and several other pavement defects. Funds for this project are allocated from the Otsego County Planning Department budget. However, the work will save the county millions in future repair costs. Roads are graded based on a scale of 1 to 94, 94 being a perfect, newly paved road with little to no defects. The worst road in the county scored an 8, while only one small section of road in southern Oneonta received a perfect 94. The program's goal is to create a 5-year plan to increase the score of each road to 70 or above, that being Cornell's average of a road that will only need to undergo preventative work for several years to follow. This 5-year plan will include the collected grading data, the budget numbers resulting from previous repairs, and the timeline of work to be completed. The final report is to be presented at the upcoming September board meeting.
This is County Route 14. Here on County Route 14, we have a perfect example of drainage issues. As you can see here, these cracks in the road are called alligator cracking. Looks like the skin of an alligator. These are caused by poor drainage and other defects. Eventually, when sections of this alligator cracking comes out, it causes potholes, as we see here. Poor drainage also leads to what we can see here is edge cracking. Starts off like this, and then sections of the road come out. It also causes these cuts along the roadway along the edge. Lastly, you can see poor drainage also causes in the pavement looks like this. You can see up here. Those are called keys. Those are caused when water gets under the roadway during the cold or winter months. It causes the road and the pavement to actually go like this. This is edge cracking. Edge cracking starts off with cracks along the shoulder of the road. Eventually pieces break off, causing the damage we see up along this roadway. Edge cracking is caused by lack of shoulder support and poor drainage.
One of the more serious concerns on our roadways is bleeding. As you can see, it's a shiny black material on the road. It's caused by the upward movement of asphalt through the pavement. The most common occurrence is the loss of your aggregate in the chip seal. We also see this with an over-compaction of hot mix asphalt. It's in the vehicle's wheel path, which causes a very slippery surface, which is why it's a major concern. Longitudinal cracking such as this is caused by many factors. As you can see here, it's a joint issue where two sections of road come together and it's creating this large gap, probably from the freeze thaw. And in New York State, that's the most common occurrence of longitudinal cracking. It's water underneath the road that freezes, heaves, then thaws again, which causes it to crack. Potholes are the most obvious sign of a failing road system. Generally, poor drainage and poor soils in the subbase are the leading causes of potholes.
These are examples of potholes. Some can occur as quickly as overnight. They start out as cracking, as we see here, alligator cracking, which eventually pieces fall out, and they start from the bottom up, eventually causing these bowl-shaped defects in the road. This one, for example, is almost 5 inches deep.
According to the Cornell Local Roads Program, a perfect score is a 94. County Highway 47 received a score of 94. It's the only county highway that's been perfectly scored. Most of our scores are well below that. But as you can see, there's no alligator cracking, edge cracking, or longitudinal cracking. Major indicators of water issues on the road. As you can see here, water's getting off the road, which is keeping the road good.
After driving the over 900 lane miles in Otsego County, we found that almost all of our roads failed, falling below 70.
There's extensive alligator and longitudinal cracking on most of our county highways. This is caused by drainage issues, which is also the first step in resolving this problem.
After collecting all of this data, we created a 5-year capital improvement plan, which we intend to reevaluate annually.
That's all there is.
Alright, so as you guys can see, those of you who have a copy of the report, it's still a draft right now. The capital improvement plan that we've come up with, we're missing prices from various vendors, and we've been trying to get those for the last couple of months, but we haven't been able to get all of them, so we did not include the 5-year capital plan as of right now. Anything else you want to add? No?
I mean, other than, yeah, we're gonna have to reevaluate this yearly, we'll update prices, but it does have the potential, keeping the good roads good. It's been proven across the state and in other states as well. Cornell Local Roads Program, it's been very successful, so good opportunity for the county to save over the long haul millions of dollars in highway maintenance.
Thank you. Any questions for the presenter?
I just want to say thank you for doing the project, 900 miles, that's a lot of mileage. Hopefully you guys can have to walk all 900 miles. But I also wanted to compliment you on your main film, and I think you probably should see Greg back there to set up this film.
I just wondered when the report would be finalized and how this information is being fed into the budget committee process.
Well, we cannot make a final draft of the report until we do get all of the prices. Unfortunately, I'm moving away this weekend, so I won't be here for that final process, but.
Well, in the report, there's about 46 different types of rehabilitation that's been identified. Once we get those prices, that needs to be put in the software. It hasn't reached budget yet because we have no idea what that's going to cost. So those figures are from 2008. They may be consistent. We don't know what it is. We just really haven't got much back yet. We've gone to Onondaga, Gorman, Suitcoat, a few other vendors. We just haven't got returns yet. So when we get that, it'll be in there. I mean, it's just kind of in the software that can run our report.
Thank you. We needed this. Did you have questions?
Well, the edge cracking, this has been a pet peeve of mine for several years, especially back when I was town supervisor. The clear salt keeps the shoulders thawed, and they don't freeze. Every time a car goes off the road, ditches come out and then the edge cracks. Paved shoulders, I think, is about the only way you can. It costs an extra. I saw the ones road that had a perfect score. Yeah, 12 or 14-inch paved shoulder.
Yeah,
I think that's necessary.
It's that upfront cost that saves you in the long haul, and that's what that program is for. You know, I don't know, probably 80% of their initial return just on work is drainage. So we need to dry things out. That's the biggest thing that we're seeing right up front. So.
Drainage is what leads to most of the problems that we see here.
And paved shoulders still high, because it makes,
It's
it's
more up
water
there.
goes
Right,
through
exactly.
comes under the road and causes fracture.
Daniel?
How much of an effect do you think canopy cover had on some of the heaving issues?
We saw some roads, 22, that were on, where there's canopy, it stays wet. I mean, it's just, without getting any
33
sunlight
is the
on there.
same.
Yeah, and that's on top of the road. Yeah, 31. I mean, it's all over the place. That's on top, which causes issues. You know, most of it's the stuff that's under the road, but that water on top causes issues as well.
I just was wondering if you wanted to disclose your lowest scoring road. I just was wondering if it was the one that my constituents are telling me about.
I don't think so. It was County Highway 22 in the town of Exeter.
Oh.
That's me.
But there's some others that are not far away.
Yeah, not to discount.
Sure.
But just.
How recently had been the 194?
I don't know. We don't know when that was last.
It wasn't,
top coated.
you didn't do it 10 minutes after it was finished?
No.
And
that's has
the
the heaviest traffic.
Yep, that's
That
the most
road.
traffic Highway County roads.
It was like that when we rode County Route 47.
Right.
Years ago.
Done last year.
Yeah.
Kathy, if I may, I just wanted to personally thank Parker and Jacqueline and Eric. They did an enormous amount of work with great enthusiasm, took it very personally. If anybody knows the county roads, it's these three people up here, besides Bill Mason and Rich Brimmer. But it's been a great experience for them, a great education, and I'm very thankful that the county supported it through our budget. We have put in a local government efficiency grant application to try to continue this. So we have a lot of good information, and hopefully it'll be usable.
Our next step with that grant is award drainage on municipal law. So we have the county done, and we did a pilot with the town of Unadilla that we're putting in. And it's going to be easier to implement there. I mean, they have 50 miles of road compared to our 900 or 110 miles. But yeah, so we're hoping to branch out and help the municipalities save money in their budgets.
Is there a goal to bring this information or this report to every supervisor in all the other municipalities? Is that, I mean, obviously it's a pilot, but is that?
Yeah, you know, and we mentioned this a while ago, and we have 12 municipalities right now that are on board with the program. There's just a number of things, you know, a lot of them don't even have a computer. So that's where this local government efficiency grant is going to come in to help them kind of cover those costs. The software is $20, so that's not an issue, but it's kind of the internet service and the hardware and software to get things up and running. We'd like to get it out once it's complete, especially, you know, on that level with Unadilla. We know that it's going to spread by word of mouth with the local highway guys. We can talk all day, but when it's actually the guys that are doing it, they start talking about it, that's when it's going to spread.
Any further questions? Thanks a lot. Great
Thank you.
job.
Thank you.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Recess. Board of Reports of standing committees, Public Works, Representative Overactive.
Good afternoon, thank you, Madam Chair. First, I'd like to say thank you to Jacqueline and Parker, Eric, and Karen for putting together this the Highway Asset Management Program. If information is power, then we've been empowered. This is a very important tool moving forward to help manage probably one of the largest and probably one of the most important assets that the county owns. So I look forward to now when I have conversations with my constituents as well as some of your other constituents in your districts as to who has the worst roads
in Otsego County, I can actually speak intelligently thereof. Again, just some quick points to bring up, which I thought were interesting, was the 475 center line miles, 950 lane miles that came out of it. We have 89 bridges. 16% of our bridges of the 89 that we manage have been flagged with some sort of defect. And what I mean by defect is something that has been identified and needs to be addressed. We field 1 employee for every 11 miles of county road that we maintain. 1 employee for every 11. Other counties are roughly 1 for every 4 to 5 miles. So when I go back to my 3 words that I like to use, that I want to instill in everybody, of manpower, equipment, equals roads. I want you to think in those terms. It's really important. From the building maintenance side, we will be doing flushing of sprinklers. That will be scheduled here within the next 2 weeks. I believe September 18th is when it's scheduled to transpire. Our next meeting will be September 21st at 9 a.m. in the second floor conference room. And on a personal note, I will be out of the country coming up next week. If any of you receive an email that says that I'm being detained or something, it may not be spam. Thank you. So please look in your spam.
So I should
file.
give my bank account?
So, I appreciate that. And I will entertain any and all questions from the floor.
I don't know if this question is appropriate for you or for Dave. Several years ago, economic development moved out of the first floor of 242 on Main Street. And I know a couple small rooms have been rented. And there's been talk of DSS moving in there. There's been talk of mental health moving in there. There have been issues about public safety. But there's a lot of rent there that I would like to see used. So what's the situation there now?
You're correct. There is the potential for Public Works to, I guess, go out and kind of manage.
There were inquiries
There's some
many
inquiries.
years ago.
Correct. I think the thing that kind of slowed some of that down had been the security issues that would be brought up with expanding the use of 242. In addendum to that, what I would like to also say is I think Public Works moving forward is going to look at what assets we have, and are we better off to retain those assets or potentially look at, in essence, selling those assets.
So you're telling me that nothing is being done down there?
At the moment, nothing has been done down there. That is correct.
I mean, I know there have been modifications, but...
Correct. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I mean, we some of the forest we're addressing forest issues, land that we own. We have the Rose Hill property that.
I'm just asking about one of your many responsibilities.
Yes. In a roundabout way, nothing's been done.
I'm not saying this is the only reason that's halted that, but I think partly it's played into it. I'm on the safety committee, and there's a lot of security concerns down there.
I'm not asking reasons, I just want to know if we have finally rented it.
But there's issues we're trying to correct.
Pete, any update on that? Did the tower lease go to RFP, or is that still the tower lease management?
Tower lease management has gone to RFP.
Okay.
Yep.
And do we expect to hear something back on that? Hopefully this year, we hope to finalize that.
I'm actually hoping, if not shortly, to get, well, we did have a group come back. Wait a minute. We did have a group come back and say, we did get the information. That's correct. We did get the information. What was being worked out was logistically having them come in and present to Public Works, and then moving forward from there. That is correct. So we did get a response to the RFP from Onondaga. It was the only one.
Well, they're done. They did one statewide for.
That was the company that's right. That was the
they
group
put it
that
out
they
there
had
for
given.
everybody for NISAC.
Correct.
So we can piggyback off, just similar to the way we
Right.
buy cars. Onondaga happens to be the biggest of purchasing,
Yep.
so they do that. So we can piggyback off whatever they bid. So I think it's just a matter of them looking at our towers and see what the viability is and how much money's on there.
Correct.
Right?
Any other questions? I have a question, Pete. You said September 21st. That's also admin, budget, mediation. So maybe you misspoke, or I don't know.
Let me look at my calendar.
The 21st is negotiations.
Yep.
Okay, so then it would be the 20th, the day before, yeah, the 20th, I'm
20th?
sorry. 20th at 9, yep.
Thank you.
Thanks for catching. I didn't make a mistake, it was just to see if you were listening.
We hang on your every word. IGA Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a very short report. Unfortunately, we were not able to have quorum at our meeting, which was the 7th of August. We were able to contact the department heads who were affected, and they will be visiting us at our meeting on September 11th at 10:30. Also at that meeting, we plan to be discussing the county loan revolving program. A couple of different options for financing have been made available to me by the county treasurer that we wanted to discuss, as well as functioning balances within the different categories of loans, which deserve a careful look. Also, the Cooperstown Chamber of Commerce will be coming. Matt Hazard will be at our meeting on the 11th. And at this time, I would also like to just take this opportunity to talk about the new CEO at Otsego now as IDA. Craig informed us by email and just making it official that Jody Zagrewski is taking over that job as full-time CEO for Otsego now. And
September 25th is the plan.
thank you, Craig. So, any other questions? I'll be happy to answer. Our meeting is the 11th at 10:30.
To that point, I met with Devin Morgan yesterday to discuss what was going on down at the IDA in the future, and I asked that he have the new director come to our October board meeting to meet with everybody. So just don't expect a full report from me starting September 25th or 23rd.
So after 1 week, we can expect.
How many judges?
I have another request of all board members. We had a meeting that we didn't have a quorum for. We had representatives that traveled a great distance to come here because they were unaware that this person and that person were not coming. We had department heads that come up. So if you are not going to be able to make a committee meeting, please, when you know that you can't make it, please notify every member of your committee and Carol. She also had a secretary come in to take the minutes. And it didn't happen because people thought, well, I'm going to be the only one missing it, and it wound up being 3 people. Understandably, sometimes things happen that morning, but still, send that message out so people don't make what can be an hour trip sometimes from far regions of this county to come up here. So I ask for your indulgence in that.
And we did have a question here.
Oh, yeah.
I just had a quick question it's Otsego now, I'm assuming Craig Moore would answer it, but I just wondered with the new CEO, there was often a lot of criticism about, or I don't know if it, and I don't think it came from our board, but businesses and community members kind of commenting about Sandy commuting in and not being a resident. Did that play into the contract at all with the new CEO? Is there a residency requirement, or is that, okay? That was all.
Any further questions? Human Services Representative. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We met Monday, August 7th. Did a bunch of things. We passed a resolution to have a 5-year waiver from procurement process and contract annually through the parent committee only with opportunities for Otsego for transportation initiative services. Again, another innovative way to streamline things. This is a service that does not require that we go through the competitive process through Onondaga, and that's been cleared. And so we'll ask you today to approve that so we can write a 5-year, we can write a, I don't know if it's a 5-year contract, but a multi-year contract and save some time. DSS, as you know, has a lot of, or uses a lot of vehicles, and due to apparently highway department staffing issues, they can't get them repaired at the highway department. 13 vehicles are in need of repair. I was just talking to Eve this morning, and she showed me a $1,200 estimate that she got for repairs for one car. She happened to bring it over to Bill Mason, and he said we could do that for $600 if we could do it. So we're spending a lot of money. Again, with the manpower that we don't have, we're losing money on that. We approved some non-mandated trainings. Tiny homes grant application has been submitted. We've talked more about that. And building security through actually all the buildings that they're involved in. That's ongoing. Talked about the raise the age legislation, which you've heard about from a number, and will hear about from a number of different areas of the county. It's going to have a big impact. Again, we talked about details of salaries and comparison of CSEA versus M&C salaries, cumulative growth over the years. And to me, this is a very funny sentence. It says, Medicaid takeover has been postponed by the state until February 2018. And my response to that is don't hold your breath. That's been a long 5-year process probably that keeps getting postponed. And our next meeting will be September 18th at 1 p.m. up on the 3rd floor.
Questions for the chair?
Actually, how many Medicaid fraud investigators do we have?
The number that comes up in my mind is 3, but I could get the...
Maybe we ought to get a couple more, and maybe we could stop some of the Medicaid fraud that's going on, or some more of it.
Well, my guess is that if that were true, he would come and say, we need some more of these guys, you know, and I...
Well, if it saves us money in the long run, I mean, you know.
Yeah, but it's a question of whether that fraud is occurring or not, whether that fraud is occurring to the extent that we need to hire more investigators. If that is true, my guess is that he would come to us and say, look, we need more people here because we can save money, like you're saying. But there's going to come a point where you're no longer saving money as you add investigators.
Well, a gentleman called me last week for an hour going on that he knew of people that were telling everybody outside of this county, go to Otsego County, you can get about anything you want. You know, and if the word is out on the street and you're getting people from Arkansas and all over the country to move here, we should make it a little tougher. If we had more investigators, it would be tougher.
That's something I hear every now and then, and I've heard for years. My guess is that if you go to any other county, those rumors are circulating in those counties too. I've seen nothing, and I'm glad to sit down with Eve and talk to her about the investigators and whether this is a more generous county than other counties. My bet would be the answer would be no, but I'll certainly bring it up.
That's probably a discussion that should include the DA since their investigators report to him.
Yeah, I'm just talking about a conversation.
No, and then the discussion that they're having. How many are prosecuted, how many are found?
A lot on it. I can tell you that I've talked to some of the investigators, and a lot of times the existing laws, the legislation that's in place, hampers them from pursuing the individuals. So they can get caught, but...
They're full-time?
Yeah. Well, they're considered part-time at 34,000, 32,000.
So they're part-time.
Right. I talked to them all last year, because I said the same thing.
So how many prosecutions that they're reporting to every month have there been this year?
And I don't know. Top of my head.
That comes through the DA's report.
Through now, that's come through public safety.
Which I get.
Yeah, I see it.
I get this monthly in my mailbox. Has he ever come and brought it and said, this is what we're doing? No. Should I be sharing this with the committee? Probably. I haven't.
We all get it.
We all get it.
I get it. Okay. I thought.
But I mean, it just doesn't seem like the numbers are really great.
I have a couple questions. It seems to me in your minutes, that the rate at Crossroads
Correct.
is going up, and I was just curious as to how much it was going up and how that program is working.
$2.
Yeah, it's from $35 to $37 per person per night. Yeah, go ahead, Lynn.
So I actually did some calculations on that. I didn't know if anybody was going to bring it up, but thank you, Kate. So the existing rate right now in this resolution will be $35.48 per bed per day. Our old rate was $55 per bed per day, so that's a difference of $19.51 per day per bed, saving the county taxpayers $8,194.20 per month. For 14 beds, that's $98,330.40 a year.
My question wasn't really that. It was how is the program at Crossroads? Because I know Crossroads is paid less than the motels. And my next question has to do with the motels. So how are the beds turning out to be used every day? It seems to me I heard somewhere that they're trying to build some more spaces. Is that correct?
There's great variability in the number of people we house, even from night to night. Great variability, sometimes in a factor of 2. We are working. We have a grant, and Karen Sullivan has helped us with that for to investigate building a set of tiny homes behind the meadows and have a kind of a compound there to house homeless people at night and be right close to the services and the bus and so forth. So that's one of the options that would take people out of the hotels at $50 a night and provide them.
I'm aware of that.
With their own.
My next question is, earlier in the year, a member of the public came to your committee with concerns about what was happening for the homeless that are put in the hotels, and I believe there was supposed to be closer supervision, and I was wondering, is that actually happening?
There was, as it turns out, there was closer supervision than it seemed during that report. The answer to your question is written down in my computer in my head.
Well, just send me a message.
I can send you a message about that and clear that up, hopefully, yeah.
Did he answer? Eve reported that you asked if it was doing well, right? And they're full. She said they're full.
Correct. Yeah, they're full every night.
Okay. I don't know if he answered that. That was your first question. I don't know if he answered that, but they're full every night.
His answer was that it's variable, so that you are.
Yeah, she reported it.
Crossroads is full.
Well, my question was specifically about Crossroads.
Yes.
Okay, but the hotels, you asked about the hotels too, and that's variable.
That was the second question. That was only supervision that I was worried about there. I hope they're not all full.
We were actually going to ask the owners of Crossroads to be here this.
They will be speaking
Next
next
month.
month's meeting.
Next month,
They
yeah.
were
We just had too many
making
for
a
this month.
presentation. We would still be sitting through presentation. So they are coming next month. Further questions, Madam Chair? Health and Ed, no, sorry, Public Safety, Representative Frazier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We met on August 18th. We approved awarding the contract to the ATI to Catholic Charities. That's resolution 257 today. With the sheriff came in, we approved retaining LaBelle Associates for design, bidding, and construction administration for the jail upgrades and improvements. We also approved the create, fund, and fill the corrections officer position. We reviewed his budget, including possible funding for the animal control officer. The county attorney, Ellen Kakoma, discussed her budget or workers' comp budget. Director of EMS, Art Klingler, discussed the XNG gas truck training that they went through. He said that was well attended, very informational, and he was happy. They conducted interviews for OC2, and I'm happy to report that the local gentleman, Victor Jones, here from Cooperstown, has been given the job, and he will be starting the 25th, I think he's starting. Lots of experience, fire, EMS, and he's actually been dispatcher. Penny Gentile came in and discussed probation director 2 requirements. Today we have a local law and a waiver for the residency requirement. Hopefully we get approval there. Director 911, E911 Director Rob O'Brien called in. He approved filling 2 vacant funded dispatcher positions. He updated us on the tower sites. We're gonna have 3 more we need. Morris, Garrettsville, and Roseboom. 2 of them are full sites, 1 is a partial. Those quotes are still pending, I believe. We discussed the New York State Police MOU, which everyone has a copy today. There were minor changes as far as 6 months and a trial basis, and an emergency we can flip a switch and everything goes back to Sydney if we need that. The county clerk came in, we discussed her budget, nothing has changed there since last year. We attended the Council of First Appearance planning meeting. That was, I thought, well attended, and we got a lot together. That was August 10th. And the Fire Advisory Board I went to on the 17th. We met at the training center, we discussed, some upgrades there, and if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer. We meet, I forgot when we meet again. The 18th or 19th?
19th at 9.
The 19th at 9 a.m.
Questions for the chair?
Which I thought was of interest, considering that everywhere else within this document, it's about closest car concept using the ADL. And I just was wondering if you had any insight on that.
Just for Brian, would you like to weigh in on that?
The only reason for that is the state police have cars on duty that are assigned the interstate, and they don't leave the interstate.
And is that based on revenue?
You'd have to ask them, I don't know the answer to that. The sheriff's department does not put a car on the interstate. State police have dedicated resources and should be the first ones to respond to calls on the interstate.
Whenever available.
Yes.
Further questions for the chair? David,
We met on August 8th, first Office of the Aging. Frances Wright submitted her formal resignation. The last day was last week. We had a little party for her, presented her some appreciation for her 30 years of service in the county. All of you were invited, many attended. Along with that, we recommended passed a resolution recommending the promotion of Tammy McDonald, the Assistant Director, she's here in the back of the room. So that's Resolution 265 in today's agenda, so hope that you'll support that. When we took care of a lot of administrative details with the transition of the two directors to the new director of the role. Representative Carson just moved for approval of current agreement with the PERS and also worked on vehicle repair and replacement and fleet management. That's something that Peter's committee, we want to push that forward. Some of the cars are getting aged, need repair, they're out of service. We need to go to outside garages to get some spares. And we really like to get that fleet management move forward so we can get that.
We are. We have 2 proposals, and as you guys all got an email from Alan, he's gone through it to make recommendations very soon.
The Elm Park Church in Oneonta is interested in a multi-year lease for use facilities for senior meals and other things. And Gary suggested improving signage down there because we've been using them for a long time. And that needs to be done. And then we worked on the budget for the welfare. Meals on Wheels, we talked about several years ago, the in-home services were discontinued. We talked about trying to use New York Connect's programs to try to see if we get funding to restore that. Department of Health, rabies clinics, very popular, still moving forward. Not a lot there. Community Services, to answer your question, Susan Mattis, along with Eve, have met in Dan's committee looking at uses for that building down there. And
I know, they've been doing that for 3 years.
Yeah, and they've met just recently too, and it's looking like it's not going to be a good fit for them, unfortunately. So they're exploring other opportunities that may present there, and maybe a different location. Coroners, we met with all the coroners to review policy and procedures for the coroner's office. Some OPUS policies that need to be revisited, other policies that are verbal and need to be written down, so we're working on those. And all the coroners are in agreement on how to move forward on that. And Don Smyers from Cornell Cooperative Extension came. He asked to restore funding to previous year's level, and also asked him for $25,000 towards part-time, would be multi-county shared services with Schoharie County, for an ag specialist to work on our plan that Dan presented at our last meeting to help work with agricultural programs in the county and support the ag, which the committee was in support of. And our next meeting is September 12th at 9:15 in the Meadows.
Question to the chair.
I just wanted to say, the recent transition with Francis and the way that Tammy was able to be brought on as associate director, I just think it's worth noting how that succession planning, I know I've had a very short time on the board, but I know that a lot of people have acknowledged succession planning has been a challenge. I think that was a great model, which I think Francis very much was key in implementing, but it's something worth noting that she kind of brought that forward, creating the associate director position and really helping us bring somebody in to really, kind of seamlessly address her retirement. It really, I thought, was a great success, and so I think.
Thank you. I think I agree with you.
Yeah.
Any further questions from the chair? I'd like to welcome Tammy. Nice to have you on board.
We gotta vote first.
Well, I haven't seen it pulled from the consent agenda.
She's
yet.
been holding her breath.
She's looking a little Solid Waste Environmental Concerns, Representative Carter.
Thank you. We met on August 14th. Dan Sullivan from Clean Energy Community Program was in. Dan gave a discussion of the facts regarding the Clean Energy Community Program, noting that the 10 high-impact actions, several of them are in progress. Also noted that the outcome is uncertain. We adopted the Ag Farmland Protection Plan, which is Resolution 269. Hope for your approval on that. Jordan Clements was in with his budget, asking for $150,000. Committee voted to cut that to 111, raising it to $1,000 to give Jordan some leverage on getting more funding. Karen went over the the garbage solid waste report, noting that the rebate for the recyclables this month of August is nothing. The market is unstable. She gave an update on the closing of the northern transfer site, which I think is going rather well. I believe we're waiting to have the scales put in now.
14.
And we approved buying a shed for the scale house. We did an update on the solar project, noting that the units are connected but fully not commercially operated. Am I right?
That was the last report, but I have updated.
You want to say the update now, or you want to?
I can share it with you if you want.
Sure.
Unless you can finish your report first.
No, you can go ahead now.
Okay. I've been in touch with Dan Leary from Tesla now. It's not Solar City anymore. And as of this morning, which I will email to the rest of you, there's an issue with NYSEG that the metering configuration was a tariff 6 instead of a tariff, I think, 3. It's something that Solar City and NYSEG is dealing with, not just on our project, but all projects. I was going to reach back to Dan before I came, but he had a meeting at 9, and I don't have any further information to add to that. But and as far as everything else in regards to operating, it is up and operating. It's just a difference of the intended tariff value of the service classification 6. Instead of me trying to explain something I'm not completely understanding of, I send you the emails, and I'm waiting for a response back from Dan Larry. But there is some issue with NYSEG, and NYSEG is the only provider that is giving some difficulty in regards to this. And like I said, it's between Solar City, Tesla, and NYSEG. There's nothing we can do. Ellen, I included you on the emails as well. So I'll keep you updated.
Well, that's pretty well the end. We meet again on Monday, September 18th at 9:30.
Thank you. Now, Karen, I understand that the rotators are all upgraded and fixed?
Yes.
And mechanically, the whole
Mechanically-
site is working as it's expected to?
Yes, it has something to do with the tariff 6
Yeah.
and the metering, controlling the metering. So like I said, my email back to Dan Larry this morning at 8:55 was, in layman's terms, what does this mean? Because I need to understand it. And he's getting back to me on that. So I will keep you all in the loop.
So it's fully functioning. Is it performing as expected or not?
It's performing. The difference is the credits, and that's based on the tariff.
So in this budget cycle, we really can't rely on any information we get as far as credits or what we're saving. I think it's where you're going with this. As far as budget numbers?
It affects us this year because we had a certain amount of savings we anticipated from it.
51,000.
We have not received a bill yet.
Going forward, we are not exactly sure what.
Right, as far as I know, and
implications
this is a Doug Zerke response, but as far as I know, we have not received a credit or a bill. So I'm guessing probably September will be the first month that we see something. Yes, it didn't begin when we expected it to, and that was numerous issues that came up.
So Solar City is out of the picture entirely now?
Solar City was bought by Tesla.
It's the same company, isn't it? It was always
Yes,
the same
they
company,
weren't-
yeah.
they weren't-
Same owner.
Well, they were,
Yeah.
yeah,
Elon Musk
they
owned
no
it.
longer.
Right.
All right, Edmund, Representative Creighton. I mean, I'm sorry,
I'm gonna let
Gilpin.
Gilpin do it this morning.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, that was last month.
We met on August 21st. First on the docket was our purchasing department. Year to date, we've done 1,216 purchasing requisitions. When they came to us last year, we told them that we did about 400 requisitions a year, so we're way above that. Some sad news, we had no responses received on the second round RFP for our salary study. We're sending that back to, as from here, back to the committee and try to figure out some sort of an opposite way of doing it.
My understanding was that Andrew was going to reach out to these companies that do studies like that and say, what can you do for $50,000?
For a certain amount of money.
Yeah,
Right.
and my question was going to be.
Well, you were going to go back to the committee and talk to them about that first, and then he was going to.
That wasn't my
Go through.
understanding.
Okay.
My understanding is he's just going to go out and do that.
Through admin, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm hoping he's done it.
Okay. We've got 2 proposals back for our fleet management. As you all know, you got an email from Alan analyzing those. The purchasing department is going to make their recommendation through what Alan and Dan have come up with as far as cost savings and where we go from there. There will be a recommendation this month on the fleet management. So we'll be dealing with all our vehicles this year. We discussed about employees using a personal credit card. All department heads or any employee should be using the county credit card. We had a lengthy discussion about that. With all the interest this year in purchasing, we've a couple department heads have found that BOCES could potentially become a place where we buy our supplies or whatever they sell, which is great. So all the interest is really helping the taxpayers. And so we're looking into potentially using them through our purchasing department on any items that they sell. Next was Brian Picorni, Information Technologies. Things are going well with Brian. The infrastructure project has seen a huge improvement on the back end of the systems, less downtime, faster speeds, and more capacity and less troubleshooting. Project still in progress, continuing to move systems to the new servers, adding that the 911 CAD was the most recent move, and our Zimbra email has not been moved yet. As you all know, in our Zimbra, there's been a quote, phishing. County still receiving phishing emails, and approximately 99% of them are now being blocked. He finished his budget, and within this budget, he is asking for funding for to upgrade our Microsoft Office, which would help us considerably. The Sheriff's Department squad room relocation, wiring is all done from his side. Security worked with the building services to secure all ITT wiring closets in the Meadows building. Board of Elections working with New York State Board of Elections to ensure election systems are as secure as possible, which is always nice. School taxes started collecting data from schools so school bills can be printed, which is okay. They're working with DSS, which is kind of a state thing. We're working with the state to centralize our print servers, which will be nice. DSS is working with the state to convert local state machines to a virtual informant. DSS plan with the state to upgrade the Microsoft Office on all DSS state computers has been completed. E911 completed mapping of the network, which is once maintained by a third party, which is good. We brought it in-house. E911, we're working on upgrading all CAD workstations to newer hardware. Highway working on implementing new fuel pump software. Highway fiber has been run, and from the main building to the sign shop. County attorney working on with the county attorney working on with specific departments and vendors to implement a new contract management software which we purchased last year. And IT has received a new van to them, which was the old veterans van. God bless him with that. Alan Ruffles updated us on our financial status, and from Alan and Dan, they said it's probably the best it's been in about 10 years. That's what Alan stated, which is nice going into budget season. He gave us a brief overview on the recent property auction. I guess it went well, and there have been no hiccups as of yet that I've heard of, as of that day. The committee discussed the invitation from the U.S. Census Bureau to voluntarily participate in the local update and census address operation as related to the 2020 census. The committee would like to discuss this with the planning department before responding to the invitation, which we will do that. Our next meeting is Thursday, September 21st, right here in the county office building. And I'll attempt.
What time?
Oh, 9 after strategic plan, but 9:45.
So while you're there, budget committee met?
We did, yep, okay. Same day, August 22nd. Alan Russell did a general overview of the budget, and there are increases, he stated. Alan Russell stated that $240,000 is in the budget line for 8 new vehicles for departments, noting that the Department of Social Services will be reimbursed in the amount of $174,000. This is that vehicle leasing. We're all trying to get that hashed out. And Alan Russell stated there are still numbers of pending, including revenues that have been entered into the budget system, but now that we have the budget, that closed at the end of August, so we now have the budget tool has been closed. We discussed the fleet management, which Alan took back those numbers and worked it out for all of us. The committee discussed heat and lights, insurance trends, fund balance, purchasing costs. The committee stated that more information needed, noting that the budget tool is still closing. So we're moving forward. The next one, we start going through this with fine-tooth comb. Next meeting, August 21st at 1 p.m.
Probably should be September.
Yeah, I probably should. This is August, yeah, whatever.
Question for the chair, Andrew?
I just had a question going back to the administration committee and RFP for the compensation study. That the first RFP focused only on the compensation side. The second one had a significant addition with this organizational and management review, which had like 4 or 5 subpoints, and it went into all the detail of a consultant coming in to assess the effectiveness of the county's current organizational and management structure, to include all levels of county government, determine whether functions can be consolidated or improved, which has no tie to the compensation study whatsoever, with an additional part to the RFP. And I'm not clear how this is moving forward, because I will say, being a committee member on performance review and goal setting, they had no interaction with the RFP whatsoever, in writing the RFP, crafting the RFP, and you know, this, with no responses to this RFP, if we're going to try to go back out with this, no company is going to touch this. It's, you know, just the cost alone of even that additional component would even double. Any consultant is going to look at that and say that's substantially huge scope of work on top of the compensation analysis. And I just wondered, what is the path forward on this?
Well, I can tell you that the purchasing department went back to the ones the two that we got, and then the one that we were looking for and they saw all the information, and they said that they would put an RFP, and none of them did.
Right.
Which was kind of a shock for us. So we're trying to, I guess the recommendation was to do a reverse. What can we get for what we have?
Okay.
Which does happen in purchasing. He said it does happen. So the scope,
So
scope can be dealt with.
Forward.
There is a path forward.
More selective or segmented.
Correct.
Got it.
Unfortunately.
Okay.
But we were told that they would apply. We were told that they would submit a bid.
I remember that.
We were told that. He was told. But it was interesting that no one did. You know?
I mean, the only question I have is that they said they were going to request a bid based on the first RFP?
No, on this came from
second?
Penny and Andrew worked out what was going to be in the RFP. Those two worked it out.
Further questions, Mr. Chair? Negotiations representative Frazier.
We have a meeting on the 21st with the deputies, sheriff meeting, and that is with arbitrator. We'll be sitting down, trying to iron things out.
I do have one more thing.
For sure.
I got a letter in the mail yesterday from Otsego County Deputy Sheriff. It says, Kathy Clark and the County Board. This letter is to inform you that I've resigned as an Otsego County Deputy Sheriff after 12 plus years of service. Although this doesn't affect you, I just wanted to thank you all for what you have done and continue to do. From the age of 5, I had a dream of becoming a police officer. Otsego County helped that dream come true, and I am forever grateful for that. I take a lot of pride in the fact that I always perform my duties the right way and held myself to the highest standards while attempting to make this county look the best that I could. I'm writing this letter to show appreciation for what each of you do, as well as your predecessors. You all have a tough job, and your hard work and dedication does not go unnoticed. I'm not leaving for any reason other than it's the best thing for me and my family. I'm moving into a different direction in life and look forward to the future. I will always be an Otsego County resident and love living here. Thank you again for all what you do. Sincerely, Jake Imperato Jr. And I enter this into the record.
Thank you. You did, how about advisory committee? Planning advisory
We met on the 22nd of August. We went through, we discussed setting up meeting with centralized leaders from other counties. Several of them kind of pushed back on a little bit, want to do anything until after the 15th of September, which is the deadline for the shared services. Shared services applications. We discussed pros and cons of centralized leadership. We discussed some community college concepts, and we are going to invite Ben Seiden from the Bears to come talk to the county. And designated some jobs out for job description. County manager, Mr. Representative Kuznick and I are going to be looking at pros and cons of a couple. And I believe that was the totality discussion.
Thank you. Questions for the chair? Okay.
Just wanted to comment.
And personally, I don't think it's working out scheduling these meetings back to back, so I agree.
Correct.
I think it's something that needs to be changed.
And that's a good thing, there's a lot of, I think, very substantial stuff that we're doing in health and ed, but it's taking a long time.
Right.
And then it runs right into the RGS, and we're all, many of us on the same page.
So you didn't have a meeting, you have a
We didn't.
suggested meeting time, so maybe
Nope.
you're all here to get together. I know Jim is not here, but find a time. Government efficiency representative Bill.
We didn't form.
All righty. And we're meeting.
But you can report on the towns and anything going on with that. That's still moving forward.
Actually, I believe we're gonna have a meeting after our board meeting and get updated as to the status of our MCEP plan. My last discussions with the 4 towns are still positive, they're still interested, so that's the latest update.
They're not here yet, are
They were here, and I told them to come back in about a half an hour.
they? Okay. So it's representative from the Department of State, actually, some deals you're all invited to. This does take place, they asked if they can come down. Free, but I thought, well, at the board meeting, it's a good time because anybody can come. All right. So that's it. Oh. We're going to go through all of these. Anybody, special boards that they meet on, Keith, yes.
The nutrition board met and went over the contracts for the food service, and the first 2 years weren't bad, but the third and fourth year, the percentage of one went up like 8%. So we did ask Frances she was gonna go back to the purchasing agency and find out if those numbers were, so we didn't approve any. The increase in the third and fourth year was quite substantial. I don't know if anything happened with.
We did send those questions back out to one of the vendors, and we do have a response back from them. So those will be presented to the Health and Ed Committee next week.
That was it, but no fish and wildlife?
No, I haven't heard anything about fish and wildlife.
Lunch serving?
No.
All right, anybody else attend the meeting?
Yeah, I did. I went to the land bank meeting in August up in Mohawk, and we're proceeding through the organizational phases of that land bank and getting into hiring administrative staff and also properties. Many communities have offered properties to be given to the land bank. Also a property that they're looking at to try and find a permanent home. They're operating out of the MVED office right now and just thinking about getting a income generating property that they could actually also have office space in, they feel would be a good fit. So we're meeting again tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. in Mohawk, so I'll be doing that. And also soil and water, we've been just getting regular reports from Jordan at the SWEC committee.
Cornell Department of Extension board met, and they're obviously they have a piece in the New York, the Otsego County Agricultural Farmland Protection Plan, which we're voting to approve today after SWEC had approved it moving forward. And they obviously contributed quite a bit of information that they also are continuing to pursue funding for their kind of their Blue Sky project, which is the revamp of their parking lot to kind of create a more kind of a better entry into Cooperstown there, as well as kind of 21st century gardens, kind of a showcase and they're pursuing some different funding options and moving forward with trying to allocate, and in fact, they've made their own commitment to allocate some funds to potentially match money they're hoping will come in from some other funding sources. So they're committed to seeing it move forward, obviously. And I think with Health and Education Committee next week, Don is coming to meet with us to ask for a resolution recognizing the National 4-H Week in Otsego County. I assume that would come to the board for approval in October. I think that's how it works. I was emailing with Carol.
Anything else? Questions?
I'm on the Office of the Aging Committee. We met July 14th. I gave it for last month, but we're scheduled to meet this Friday, 1 o'clock at Elm Street Park. Obviously, I'll go before next month. I just wanted to update the board also that been jumping through the hoops, getting the groundwork on the healthcare insurance consortium. I've talked to several of you. If I haven't, I apologize. But right now, it's been very positive. We had a town hall meeting. Multiple municipal leaders met at this meeting. I had one fence sitter. I've known him from years through Boy State. And he's like, Len, I'm just sitting on the fence. And I think that's great to actually have that objective view. But everybody else looks at it, looks at the numbers that we're presenting through the use of Tompkins County wheel that they created. They've been in it since 2011. They flipped the switch. And they've been very successful, even with 2 substantial incurred payment years, the first and the third. And I think that's a great template to look at. So far, everything has been going positive. I'm working with Dan and Alan on this, and between the 3 of us, we've been working hard on this. Dan, obviously, is the numbers person along with Alan, and so right now, we have an initial savings to the county if we get all the contracts in place of about $2 million a year. So that's a lot of money, $2 million a year for this healthcare insurance consortium. So we're moving forward. There's a lot of work. I open the invitation to any of the fellow board reps that want to join in and help out with the workload. I appreciate it.
Who organized the town halls?
I asked for one, and it went to the town of Hartwick. We thought with a smaller community, folks would be interested in that, and so it was invited to all the town supervisors. And
I would ask that then you extend that invitation to the board reps so that whoever's rep in that district can attend as well.
Okay.
And
we're going to be doing
talking
more of them,
about.
so
Yeah, so just blast it out there.
I know that Meg brought up Jody, but I know that I'm looking forward to it at Otsego now that we'll, our full-time, first time ever, our full-time CEO. And I hope that all of you, including the papers, give him a warm welcome. He has a lot to do, and I hope he carries on what the board itself has done, getting this thing going in the last 3 years, and looking forward to working with him. I hope it all keeps everything going. So I hope everybody gives him a warm welcome. It'd be nice. It was a lot of work, a lot of reviews, a lot of time, and not an easy decision for all of us. But we'll see. Looking forward to it.
Safety Committee met on the 18th. We discussed a county boot policy for providing safety shoes to primarily highway workers, which is a requirement of OSHA. That is moving forward. Also spoke about the security issues again at 242 Main Street. Or something like some of the primary conversations other than training that took place.
Questions? Alrighty, we need a motion to dispense with the reading of all resolutions.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there any representative wishing to remove a resolution from the consent agenda? Call for help. I need a call back on consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Frazier?
Aye.
Powers? Clark? Stammel?
Aye.
Kennedy? Aye. Overricker?
Aye.
Bliss? Mariana?
Yes.
McCarty? Wilbur?
Aye.
Koenig?
Aye.
Galveston?
Yes.
Carson?
Yes.
Silverman?
Yes.
5,745 ayes, 0 noes, and that's
We're done.
consent agenda.
Okay.
So if there's no objection, call the resolution to be acted upon as presented. May I have a motion?
Okay.
Any
So
motion?
moved.
Steve? Oh, I just get it. Now, the resolution 273.
Frazier?
Aye.
Powers? Clark? Stammel?
Abstain.
Kennedy? Yes. Overricker?
Aye.
Bliss?
Aye.
Mariana?
Yes.
McCarty?
Aye.
Wilbur?
Aye.
Koenig?
Aye.
Galsman?
Yes.
Carson?
Yes.
Silveros?
Yes.
5,202 ayes, 0 noes, 503 absent. Resolution 273 is adopted. Local Law D of 2017, the local law creating an exception to the residency requirement for the Director of Probation 2 for Otsego County. Second, a motion and a second. Dave, Dan first. First and Coach second. All in favor? Okay, so this will be held over until date is October 4th, 9:45. Everything. Dan has some budget stuff, so don't leave without hanging out in the doorway here.
I just want to talk about the ethics committee, continue to work on that. I gave everybody last month a list of potential candidates. The feedback I got was positive, didn't get any negative feedback about any of the candidates. Also didn't receive any other candidates from any other board members. So I'm going to move forward with that list, I guess, and present at some point 3 candidates to be voted on. If anybody has any questions, let me know.
So,
Yeah, now he's at a lawyer.
So we're gonna try to file something on the way.
Have him there. Yeah, it's not gonna get it later. I'm trying to get it later.
Josh is here and Kevin from the Department of State.
Do you want them to go over the names?
I can't hear you.
Do you want them to go over Dan and Alan? Do you guys have any budget?
Dan and Alan?
Oh, you just hand this up now, right?
Yeah, with a quick intro to kind of the steps.
Sure.
All right. So, won't take long. I'll hand these out, but I'll kind of talk now. So Alan got the budget packets. Actually, I think we can.
In addition to the packets, which are the usual, slightly different format that we adapted to last year, that's a little bit cleaner presentation. Kind of at the summary level, what we're handing out right now are 2 sheets. One of them is the Exhibit B, that's familiar from the front of the budget. Ultimately, the bottom line, I'm going to call this a soft $5.5 million gap, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Exhibit B, I'm including a very similar fund balance allocation for 2018 that we have in 2017. A few of the things are up slightly and a few of the things are down slightly. The general fund balance allocation is up slightly because it's relatively strong right now compared to last year, and it was relatively strong. It was strong last year as well. However, we don't have quite as much to allocate from the highway. Our tobacco funding that we're getting from the state settlement this year is down slightly, and the solid waste reserve, we don't need to draw quite as much from there so far, the way things are looking. So overall, the total fund balance allocation, reserve allocation, is down about $600,000 compared to last year. I'm including those, and it is slightly conservative. There might be some wiggle room, not a significant amount. The other sheet that we hand out is just simply, it takes no account of fund balance. It simply says what are the increases in expenditure and revenue compared this year and last year, and then what is the net? The net being the key thing. And that is a $5.5 million overall net increase in requests. Okay, so that's by way of explaining why I think it's like 6.2 million on the exhibit. The difference is how fund balance figures in. Yeah, this year is because I don't think there's any department that went crazy and requested a whole lot of savings. But by and large, there are several departments that did. I think they're advocating for the resources that they can get to do their job. So I don't think they're out of line. But there was a little bit more of that, and this is my definition, not the department's, I will say, but it's not a requirement or a needed. I think there's room to cut without cutting into the bone if that's the direction that the board wants to go. Highway in and of itself is a $2.5 million increase in their overall net request out of 5.5. So I'll stop my foot stomping at there.
Percentage increase?
That would be a 56%. That would be a 56% increase, probably about a 55% increase. So I don't, again, I would emphasize this is a soft gap to close. There have been prior years where it's just been an extremely hard year. Departments have put in relatively flat requests, but because revenues are dropping, those were bad years. Those were hard gaps to close. This is not one of those. I don't think there's going to be blood on the floor and tears. I think there's room for a healthy dialogue, departments advocating to do their job, but you ultimately are accountable to the bottom line. I think they'll appreciate that, so good conversations ahead. Progress on utilization of the narratives, but I still wouldn't call it perfection. I think there's room to improve. I think what we'll try and do this year, my request, Alan and I would like parent committees, look at those narratives, please, in addition to kind of putting a critical eye to the numbers. If you don't think that narrative is rich enough, let us know. We'll be at those parent committee meetings. What we'll do this year, because I really do want to encourage departments to leverage that more effectively, is parent committees, if you don't think that narrative is strong enough, let's discuss that there. And we will open up the budget tool again with those departments, with the feedback parent committees get, so we can refine those narratives by the time they get to the budget committee, and then we'll redistribute those. We're going to have to be very careful that numbers don't inadvertently get changed when that happens, so please be sensitive to that. But we'll have checks and balances in place to see that that doesn't happen. Anyway, any questions? All right, to close the Saratoga, we're off and running. Sure. Hey, Joe.
No. Oh, or I'll be there at the dinner.
That was really what
Hey,
it
was.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's why you can, no, that's fine.
Yeah, I'd love to see that too.
We have,